Is it working? Okay, it looks like there's some people here. Started the stream 5 minutes early, so we'll see if, I don't know. Give some time for these technical problems to work themselves out. Are there 9 people here? I don't see anything in the chat. Hello. Okay. So it is working. Cool. Well, let's send out a little tweet. The live stream is starting. Alright, I don't think anybody actually reads my Twitter, but oh well. It's worth a try. How's everybody doing? Oh yeah. Yep, I like to put the messages inside, or the text window inside the video, so that when I upload it to YouTube, the viewers who watch it on YouTube aren't totally lost and confused, and they can actually see like what I'm talking to. Thank you, RIP Studios. It's working better than the morning show, because before it was like earlier in the day and I had to deal with sunlight, and now I just have my lights, which are still being a pain, but I'm able to somewhat cut myself out. Like you can see where this side of me, you can see like there's like some fuzzy stuff right there that I can't get rid of. How long is this live stream going to be? About an hour and a half. I'm gonna have to cut it off at like 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, so that's almost exactly an hour and a half from now. So yes, I imagine this is probably going to be a little bit more of a low-key live stream compared to the other one, because I don't know, we talked about a lot of stuff in the first live stream. This live stream, I guess, is more meant for just the people who weren't able to make it to the first one. So yes. What should we talk about? I did manage to record some gameplay footage of my old iPhone game. So now I will actually be able to show that off on my channel to a degree. So at least it'll be nice to have some documentation of the fact that I made a game on iPhone. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to catch live streams when people are in different time zones. It's really hard to find a time that's good for everybody. It seems like every time I do a live stream, somebody isn't able to make it. Which, you know, oh well, that's life. Is the quality all coming through okay? Like good volume, image quality, all that? Sweet. I guess we're good to go then. So who's been working on GameDev stuff lately? I wonder if I should post something on Reddit. Nah. Well, maybe. Yeah, you know what? I'll post something on Reddit. Maybe get some new viewers. Should I put it in /r GameDev or Unity 3D? Let's do GameDev, because this tutorial series isn't necessarily like, or not tutorial series, this live stream is not strictly about Unity. You just finished up a Game Jam game? Sweet. And now you're working on a long-term project? That's awesome. What type of project? This is really hard to do. Where are my text boxes? There it is. Oh wait, no. I should make this a link, shouldn't I? How do you do that? Alright, let me go back to r/GameDev. Oh, sweet. Mobile gaming. Post a GameDev topic. Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. How do you submit a link? Where's the link? I could have sworn there's like a way to make a link post. Maybe not. Oh well. Screw it. Next time. 4 people. Well, it says 13 people for me. Dang, that stinks. School getting in the way of game dev. Huh. Rain, as in the AI pathfinding? Let's see. So here's a question. I am oh wait, no. I'm using a PC. How am I supposed to test out your game on iPad? This is one of the reasons why I hate Apple. Why I kind of think that they are horrible scumbags. I don't think there's any way. You need to get a Mac. So you could just I think you would have to use some sort of like Unity plugin or the Unity team license or something to transfer your game over to Unity project on a Mac computer. Or you could just export like select all of your project files and export them in a Unity package. And then like open them up in a new project on a Mac. And those are really your only options. You can't even emulate a Mac operating system on a PC because you need special computer components to run their operating system. So, way to go, Apple. Way to design an operating system that only works with very specific computer components. So smart. You know, they did that on purpose so that people would buy their hardware. But yeah, that's just... Or maybe you could jailbreak your iPad. I don't... But that wouldn't really give you really fair test results. Rain in a 2D project. If it were like a 2D top-down shooter, possibly. Yeah, I've never jailbroken any kind of mobile device, so I don't know much about jailbreaking. Yeah, it really sucks. Like, I mean, I don't even know if you have access to a Mac computer. Um, I'm trying to think if there's. Oh, you also. Here's the extra cherry on top when it comes to Apple. You also can't even test your game on a freaking iOS device until you buy their developer license. So, not even just the license to put it on the store, you need a freaking license to just put the game on the iPad. So, I hate Apple. Yeah, I used to be an Apple fan, but then once I started like looking into like, like making apps for Apple, like, I used to not think it was that bad back then, but that was because I never did any sort of like I never was exposed to Android and I wasn't exposed too much to PC. So I just assumed Mac was good because Mac was pretty much all I used. But once I switched to PC and Android, it's like, holy crap, like, why in the heck did I ever use Apple? Once you go Mac, you never go back. I think it's the other way around. I don't know. Like, there's some things about Apple that are nice. Like, they're good at design, obviously. Um, they're good at making sleek products. Like the MacBook Air. Like, it's, like, just a very well built, like, it just, I don't know, it's just such good design. But, there's just so many things about Apple that I just don't like. Wow, Mini Karate Kid, that's awesome. That's sweet. Well, thank you. 99 bucks for greatness. Oh, are you referring to Ouya? Well, it's so much easier to develop for Ouya than it is Apple, that's for sure. You won't. Well, maybe you will reach more of an audience on Ouya than you would on Apple, because on Apple you would just be buried under the hundreds of already successful apps, and nobody would find your game. Whereas on Ouya, there's not as many games, so you have much more of a chance to be found. But there's way, way less people who have Ouyas than iPhones. Yeah, I used to use Microsoft Word on my Mac too, and it was really laggy. Is it worth it to learn Objective C? I don't think so. Um, if you really wanted to make apps, maybe games, no. Um, if you want to make games, make it in Unity. Uh, because if you go with Unity, you just have so many more tools available to you that are specifically geared towards games. Um, And then also you can export your game to any type of device: Android, iPhone, iOS, Mac, PC, Linux, Windows Phone, BlackBerry, maybe even Xbox and PlayStation, Wii. But Xbox, PlayStation, and Wii, I think you need like a special license or something. Maybe you just need Unity Pro. I don't remember what you need to go on to those. But I mean, for Android and iOS, so much easier. Um, yeah, I wouldn't bother with Objective C, because that's basically limiting you to iPhone, and that basically is cutting out half the market. No problem. Let's see. That's pretty cool. Is that a magic card? I wonder who made that. the Unity company make that? Or did Unity just retweet it? That's cool. That is a good question about the clothing. Um, it depends. I think if it's like just loose fitting clothing, like I don't know, a hood on your hoodie, or just like your character's sleeves, or anything along those lines, I would say just uh, do weight painting, and just make it a part of the same mesh as your main character, and then just make it so that it's like half weight painted. Like let's say it's not like some small piece of cloth dangling off your arm. Make it like half bound to like your shoulder and half bound to your arm. That way it like moves like halfway between them. And sometimes you can do little tricks, um, with like different patterns of weight painting to make it look like cloth when it's not actually cloth. But if it's something like a cape, you're pretty much going to have to go with a cloth, physics body. But if you do that, just do a collision, do physics layers and make it so that it only interacts with the player and not the environment. So it has way less collisions to check. Um, and then beyond that, I don't know how you would go about making sure it doesn't get tangled up. That would be a little tricky. Um, I don't know. I've never done it before. I'm just kind of speculating based on what I know. Um, Unity is actually built on C++, plus plus, so I believe when you export the game, it's like actually in the end it's C++. plus plus. It's just when you're inside the editor, you're using JavaScript or C Sharp. Um, I mean, I know Unity's built on C++, plus plus, but I don't know if it's C++ plus plus after you export it. And I don't know too much about making games on Xbox with Unity. I just know that I've seen that that Unity supports it, but it's not one of their like main products. It's like I don't know actually how you go about getting it. I think you might need like, well, I know that to get on the Xbox Live Arcade, you need a publisher. So maybe you need a publisher to get a hold of that. I don't know. Or maybe it's just Unity Pro. I'm really not sure. Oh yes, Assassin's Creed 3 was kind of what I was thinking of when I was talking about the cloth. Every time I stop to read, you think that the video froze. Yeah, it's really hard to concentrate on like both like reading and talking at the same time. Hello, blame the dogs. Yay, you made it to the live stream. Kepitis. I can't pronounce that. Hello, disfigured. Um, so making a first-person game where in multiplayer you're animating the character looking up and down with their gun. Um, well, I guess the main thing is that you would want to separate the legs and the torso. Um, I believe that would be pretty easy to do with Mechanim, because for like different animations, it gives you options for turning on and off different body parts. So I think you could use that. Um, and you could always have like an animation that's only a single keyframe, and have that keyframe, like one animation with a keyframe be looking straight up and one animation with a keyframe being looking straight down, and then you blend between those two poses, which are basically a looped animation. You just blend between them in a blend tree in Mechanim, based on a variable, like a float variable that you get based on where the player is supposed to be looking up and down. So it wouldn't be necessarily bound to the mouse movement, but just the X camera rotation of the other player. No, the Playmaker book, I unfortunately dropped that. 3D for you. I haven't. Yeah, I had to drop the Playmaker book. It was just eating up all of my time. Um, and it was probably something I prematurely jumped into that I wasn't quite ready for. Yeah, and I wasn't sure how successful it was going to be. And I don't know, it was hard to figure out. I don't know. I kind of like it was literally eating up all my time, and even then I still couldn't keep up with the schedule that they wanted me to do. And I mean, I don't want to point fingers, but like it was really hard working with them. Like they just said get it done. That's it. They gave me zero feedback. And like in the end I was kind of thinking like, well, if I'm going to make a book, why don't I make a book? What part are you doing? Like I was pretty angry at them for that. They're just like, what's the point in having a publisher if all you're doing is, giving me timelines and you're not even looking at what I'm creating? And, so I was getting no feedback on the writing. I don't know. I'm going to stop ranting about that because it just ended up not working out. It was something I jumped into a little too early. And I kind of regret making a big announcement about it because I ended up not following through with that project. What about your background? How did you get into programming and game development, and how long have you been doing it? I don't have much of a background. I graduated high school, and that's about it. Um, I've been making games since I was 13. I started off with Game Maker. Well, I might have started off with some other things. Let me think. No, I actually started off with Chipmunk Basic. I took a class. I made some games in there. I made, like, one of our assignments was to make a maze, like a text-based maze, where, like, X's were the walls and, like, O was your character or something like that. And then I also made, like, a blackjack game in that class. It was like a 2 week or something, like maybe it was like 4 weeks. Like it was just like something on the weekend. It was like a class for kids, like a summer class. So that was probably my first exposure to programming. After that, I taught myself how to program on the TI-83 calculator. So just like on the calculator itself. Like I remember I was in the dentist office and I brought the TI-83 manual with me, which is a book that's like that thick. And I just found the section about programming. And in the waiting room of the dentist, I taught myself how to program on the calculator. And I believe that was all in 7th grade. So when I was like 13. And then I started getting into Game Maker, and making some games. Oh yeah, the example project, the plane game. What was it? 1979 was the name of that game, or something like that. Um, but yes, where did I go from there? Like I just did games after school, on and off, and throughout. Well, until 2009, which was when I graduated high school. So, like, I dabbled in game developments in Game Maker, in a little bit in high school. So I made quite a few games actually, but I only have 2 left. I actually lost the rest, unfortunately, which is really sad. On an old computer that crashed, and that was before I was responsible enough to actually back up my work or do any gameplay footage recording or anything like that. And let's see. And then after high school, I was like, well, I got to start working on doing something that can turn into a career one day. So I took a game design class, or like 2 game design classes at my local community college. And they were fun classes. They exposed me a little bit more to the video game world. But for the most part, they're mostly just fun. I didn't learn too much from them. I was introduced into modeling with them a little bit, though. So that was good. And kind of right after that class, I discovered Unity, and I'm like, well, I'm going to make an iPhone game in Unity. And that was a Galaxia interface. And shortly, a little bit during and after that game was done, I started making tutorials. And then, yeah, just kept building up from there, and still working on it. Still working on turning it into a career. Just teaching myself through the internet. Just continuously making stuff. And yeah, so just got to keep at it until I start making money at it. How did your parents react to my decisions? Pretty well. I don't think they've ever not been supportive of it. They just didn't understand it, and they knew that, I'm really good at computer stuff and math and 3D geometry, so they're like, well, it sounds like a good fit. I don't think they knew how hard it is to get a good job in making video games. Like, even to this day, I'm still struggling with that, and I'm starting to wonder, like, if that is even something that's possible. I mean, I'm starting to, my eyes are starting to be opened up. I don't know, I'm just starting to see more of what the industry is really like, and yeah, I don't know, just still kind of figuring it out as I go. What happened to my website? Just the subscription to the hosting service ran out. So I got a new hosting service, and I couldn't retrieve the backup of my old website, so I just made a new one. Took like about a day. Still working on it, actually. Oh, there's another question I missed. Do I have any tips on naming games? That is tricky. I'm actually trying to figure that out right now for my own game. For this tutorial series, I'm trying to figure out a name for this game. I figure I want it to be a very short name, I want it to be one word, and I want it to be a made-up word. But I want it to be a word that people will look at and kind of know what the game is going to be about by looking at this made-up word. And the reason is that I'm going to turn it into tutorials, and it'll be a lot less confusing if it's a made-up word, so that it doesn't get confused with any sort of real things. And also, I'm probably going to need to put the name in the title of all of the tutorials. And if I'm going to do that, I want it to be really, really short. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. As far as any tips, crap, I don't think I have any good tips. I think figuring out a good way to name games is something I'm still trying to figure out. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying with the dynamic changing. Um, like, how much does it change? Is it like completely level generated or something like that? Um, because I know rain does have obstacle avoidance. I haven't messed around with it yet, so I don't know how good it is, and I don't know if that would be good enough for you. Brilliance Game Studios has a tool that I have only seen, I've never used, and that had some dynamic uh, navigation stuff in it. Um, Trying to think of any other tools. Yeah, I can't think. Those are the only two tools that come to mind. Um, how come you can't get a game dev job? Isn't there a negative unemployment in this field? Um, I think the reason why I don't have a job yet, or if I will ever even get one, I might just stay indie all the way. I'm really not sure. Um, but part of the reason is that the area that I live in, there's hardly any game studios whatsoever. There's only one in my town, um, which I did talk with that company. I got a lot of interaction with them. I got a tour of the studio. They were all really cool people. Um, but I just wasn't a good fit for their company. The biggest thing that I kind of found out that the big studios, what they're really looking for is very specific talents. They want you to be good at one thing. Like they're going to, like they don't care if you're good at a lot of things. They're going to hire you for one thing, and they want to hire the best person at that one thing. So like where I'm at though is I'm kind of like a jack of all trades. Uh, I I'm on like my third game that's built entirely from the ground up by me. So I'm like good at a lot of things, but I'm not like spectacular at any one thing. Um, so that means that my skill set leans a little bit more towards indie because being a jack of all trades is much more valuable in the indie world. Um, so I'd say to quickly sum it up, those are the reasons why I don't have a job. Yeah, as long as the title is memorable and not too confusing to spell, which I named my YouTube channel Itiski Tutorials. That might have been a really dumb decision. But it's been like 3 years and I can't change it now. Huh. Um, yeah, step one, move to California. Yeah, from what I've heard, that sounds like it. Yeah, it would be a slower process for GIMP as opposed to Mudbox. I mean, well, I haven't ever used Mudbox, but if Mudbox shows your texture being updated in real time, then yeah. Um, I've never. I should look into Mudbox. Isn't it free? Or am I thinking of something else? But yeah, GIMP is a slower process. It's like the free version of Photoshop. Can you tell us what you currently know about Rain at the moment? Sure. I know that it just came out today, so it is available. So if you go to rivaltheory.com, somewhere on there, they should have a link for you to be able to download Rain. Also, um, I haven't fully tested it out personally, but I think that there is a way to upgrade your Rain indie project into a Rain project. I think they tried to streamline that a little bit, but I think you're still going to be redoing a lot of your work because, like, before they didn't have nav meshes, and now they only have nav meshes. Um, so the nav meshes work very well. They just generate you just put everything inside of a box and you click generate, and it generates nav meshes for you. Also, AI are much better at finding the nav meshes. Like if you just drop an AI into the scene, if it's not assigned a nav mesh, excuse me, it will just find a nav mesh. Ugh, hiccups, and it will go with that. What else? Their behavior tree system is mostly the same. Um, Everything is pretty much supported through Mechanim as opposed to the legacy animation importer or legacy animation system. Um, What else do I know? It's free. Um, it's really well performance optimized. I've tested it on Ouya and an Android phone, and there was zero performance overhead. I did not notice any performance drop, so it was very optimized. And it's got a nice UI now. Before it was mostly just like menus, but now it actually has a really nice UI. Um, and as far as the AI's behavior, you sort of code it yourself. Like you use their behavior tree system. Um, See you later, Snowy Black. Um, you kind of like create the behaviors yourself through their behavior tree system. Um, and it's really easy to drag and drop, not drag and drop, but it's really easy to apply pathfinding. Yeah, I guess I could show you. Let's see. Okay, good. Before with XSplit, my Unity was being so dumb. Okay, let's go to my project. And here, sure, save. And let's go to the scene. Let's fly over. Okay, so I'll show you what I got so far. Let's go to the hierarchy, nav mesh. So here's the nav mesh. Just generates on its own pretty easily. If I go to the inspector, let me just drag and drop the inspector over here. So here you can see the new UI, and it's really nice. It just cleans up everything. There's a lot of variables that you can play with. For the most part, what I've noticed with the nav mesh is pretty much just leave it the way it is, and 99% of the time it works great. And you just click generate, and it generates a nav mesh. And then the AI, I actually have, like, here's the mesh and the animator. Here's the object with the script on it. And the only thing that this script does is like detect collisions when it collides with the player. And when it dies, it falls into pieces. And it controls the animations. So that was my own simple script. And then here's the AI component. All you got to do is you go up here into this menu and you go to create AI, and then it will add this, and then you got an AI. And then you have a whole bunch of cool settings that you can play around with. Like you can adjust like the sensors, like you can create like visual and audio sensors. I think there's other ways to create other types of sensors, so that your AI can have different ways of detecting what's going on in the world. Right now, I just have it set to when it sees the player, it pathfinds to the player. And then I just have when the enemy is dead, it takes this game object and it basically does that. It sets game object dot enabled equals false. So it deactivates the AI of Rain and just lays there idly on the ground and has a countdown timer until it destroys the game object. You didn't miss too much, I don't think. Just pretty casually talking about stuff. Does Rain work fine with 2D games? Not technically, but like if it were like a top-down shooter or a RPG, like if it was like a say if it were sort of like Pokemon or the original Zelda, I'm trying to think of other top-down sort of type games like that that aren't quite top-down, but they're not like side scrollers. It wouldn't work very well. I don't think it would work at all with a side scroller, because a side scroller has a lot to do with jumping, and I don't know. It would be really hard to program Rain to jump things. Like I'm pretty sure it's possible I don't know. I would have to look into that. Super Mario 64. Yes. Super Mario 64, a game like that would be perfect for rain. Um, but I'm thinking of 2D games. So any kind of like top-down shooter or just top-down view, you could technically make it sort of work, but you'd still have to use like 3D colliders. Yeah, you would still need to use 3D colliders, which shouldn't actually be too big of an issue. So yeah, it depends on your exact game. So Mini Karate Kid had a question. Okay, do you know of any simple modeling programs? I want to create an indie game, but most of my problems is that I suck at art, and bad at modeling. Um, yeah, the simplest program I can think of is probably Wings 3D. It's free on both PC and Mac. Um, you can only do like static meshes though. You can't do like a skinned mesh or a character with bones and an armature or anything like that. And you can't do like, stretching or anything like that. It's just if you want like a solid mesh character object thing, Wings 3D is really nice. The nice thing about Wings is that pretty much everything in it is like you right click on it, like right click extrude, right click weld. So you learn the vocabulary of 3D modeling when you use Wings 3D, and you can right click on everything. And when I don't know, it's just nice to be able to see all your options. Something like Blender is much harder if it's your first 3D modeling program, because Blender, everything's pretty much keyboard shortcuts. So it's really hard to figure out what to do when all of your tools are hidden in keyboard shortcuts. Um, Google SketchUp is good, but I think you need Google SketchUp Pro to be able to export your game or to export your model as something that Unity can use. The free version, unless they changed it since I last checked, the free version of Google SketchUp doesn't allow you to export in a format that Unity allows. So that's the downfall of Google SketchUp. Um, uh, Rigging's not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite necessarily. I would have to put it between sound effects or just debugging code. I think that's a pretty. I think debugging code, that's a given. I think any programmer hates that. It just comes with programming. So I'd probably say sound effects. Um, I don't know. I sort of like recording sound effects, like going around and just finding things that sound like what you want, but then actually putting it in the computer and coming up with something that actually sounds good. I'm just not very good at it, and I don't know what I'm doing. So that's my only reasoning for that being my least favorite part. And it's just so time consuming. Like, it's so time consuming, and when I do it, it doesn't sound very good. So it's like it takes so much work and effort, and then in the end, I get something that is not up to something that I would say is quality. Yeah, I hate it when that happens too. When you just get a glitch and you have no idea where that glitch came from. That's the worst. Or when you're like stuck on a glitch for like a week. What I've really learned how to, like, I don't know. You start learning how to isolate your glitches and play testing constantly, so that when you do get a new glitch, you can figure out like, oh, it must be something to do with that change I just made. So you get better with it over time, and you learn how to separate your codes so your code's not so dependent on other pieces of code. So that way, there's less spaghetti work. Like you aren't trying to It's like when when you have a box full of wires, and you're trying to find the right USB cable, and it's like almost impossible. It's like when your code's really messy, it can feel like that metaphorically, and trying to figure out which wire you're trying to find, and yeah, and then also just like isolating what's wrong, and like typically if you're getting a really bad glitch, that typically means you need to backtrack, take the section of whatever it was that you were working on, and whatever section is causing that glitch, and just wipe it and start over. Because chances are, if you're getting a very serious glitch or lots of glitches, it means that you're probably going about it a pretty wrong way, or there's got to be a better way. Wow, I made 25 million? Um, I don't know how. I would say either the word inspiring or hopeful is are the words that come to mind when I hear success stories like that. I say hopeful because it's like validating that there potentially can be success and good success within indie game development. And it's also definitely inspiring to hear, like, in like a lot of indie game developers, their success game that everybody knows them for is never their first game. It's always like their 20th game. Um, so yeah, I think it's just something you got to build up and you got to learn, and it is inspiring to see other people successful like that, and knowing that, like, well, it's possible. Yeah, stuff like rigging and UV mapping that can be so tedious. Yeah, yeah, that's right, disfigured. Something as little of a difference between a capital T and a lowercase t can make a world of a difference. Or if you just miss a semicolon or a squiggly bracket, it's like, or a period in the wrong place. Like, it's the tiniest little, like, if you slightly misspell something, it can destroy your whole code, and it can like sometimes take forever to figure out what's doing it. If you do your own dynamic pathfinding, should you look at raycasting? Um, yeah, I'd say the tools that you could use are raycasting, sphere casting, and just colliders, like trigger colliders. It's hard to say which would be the best. It probably depends on your level design. Um, I'd say it mostly depends on your level design. Sir, you are being haunted. I know I've heard of that. Is that the one where you play the ghost and you have to scare people? And it's like an iPad game? That was a pretty cool idea. It was like a fun puzzle game. Maybe I'm thinking of a different game, though. Yeah, it's really nice that more indie games are getting on Steam. I mean, I have mixed feelings about Steam. I sort of love and hate Steam at the same time, because it's kind of like if you're not on Steam, well, it's not like if you're not on Steam, you're not going to be successful, but it's kind of like, it's kind of like, being on Steam automatically makes you successful. It's like being in the exclusive club, which I don't know. I mean, in the end, I think Steam is a good thing. They have a pretty good system for weeding out good games and bad games, and figuring out, like, I know it can be such a headache for some developers, Because every developer is going to believe that their game deserves to be on Steam. Like, nobody's going to not believe that for their own game. So I can see where Steam has a really hard job, because if they let in everybody, it might just ruin Steam and everything that they built. But at the same time, like, you know, if they make it too exclusive, people are going to hate them for being, you know, too mainstream or something like that. But I'd say for the most part, considering all the responsibilities that they have, I think in the end Steam's pretty good. And you always got Desura. Desura is getting more popular. Like, I think Desura picks up where Steam, like, because Steam doesn't allow every game, and Desura pretty much does allow every game. What are you waiting for in the game? Taking a break? Oh, I'm not actually working on it right now. It's too hard to talk and work at the same time. I used to do that, but it ended up just distracting me from actually working. I think live streams, I mean, I don't know. It was way too distracting doing like a live stream every day. Yeah, I think C Sharp is better, but in some ways it is harder to use than JavaScript. Like, there's just little things in there that I think will throw off beginners, and there's a lot of little things in there that can mess you up that don't make a lot of sense when you are new to programming. Whereas JavaScript, what I do like about it is everything in JavaScript, it like makes sense to a beginner programmer. Like, if you're new to programming, like, there's less quirks about JavaScript. But in the end, I do think C Sharp is more powerful, like a lot of people say. What is my view on people copying other games? I see way too many Slender clones in the Unity forums. I think if you copy a game to parody the game, that's cool. You know, that's all about humor, really. So that's really all about just having a sense of humor. If you're copying a game to iterate upon it and develop it as a genre, that's cool. But if you're copying a game because that game was successful and popular, that's pathetic. That's my belief. I mean, I think, you know, creating video games, it is an art. And it's almost more so than, I mean, I guess I don't know how you measure how much art is in a particular art form. But I think video game developers tend to be much more, you know, closely involved with their games. Because unlike many art forms, making a game takes a lot of time. Like, some people spend upwards of 2 or 3 years on a single game. Like, that's pretty high for a game. But people have been known to spend that much time on a single work of art. Whereas, like, photography, painting, sculptures, anything like that, like dance, performance arts, acting, anything like that, you create works of art on smaller scales much more often. So I think with video games, like, you know, it's so insulting to steal, like, basically somebody's baby. Like, when you're making a video game, that like becomes your baby. Like, you like just love it to death, and it's yours, and you've created it. So it's I don't know. It's like somebody's kidnapped your dream when somebody copies your game. But I mean, it's like something that's simply inevitable when your game becomes viral, and really successful. People are going to copy it, which sucks. And I think people who do that are pathetic. If you're iterating upon it, bring your own thing to the freaking table. I've seen too many games that it's like, you know, they're blatantly copies of a particular game. And then when you go to talk to the developer, they're like, oh, no, this is different, and this is different. It's like, dude, if you can list off on one hand the things that are different in your game, you're blatantly copying this game. Um, and it's so disrespectful. I think it's just so disrespectful to copy somebody's work like that. It's just plagiarism. Um, it's like the equivalent of like taking somebody else's book, and like if somebody wrote an amazing novel, like you take that novel and then you change a few words or you change one chapter and say that it's your own. It's like taking Harry Potter and, changing a few events in it and then saying like, yeah, I wrote Larry Potter. It's not Harry Potter at all. It's Larry Potter, which I think actually was an actual thing at one point. Um what game am I working on? I am working on I don't have a name for it yet. I hopefully will have a name for it soon. Um but it's going to be the new tutorial series. Um, on my YouTube channel, it's update number 4. We'll show you. I mean, I can show you the game right now too. I'll just hit play, show off this game a little bit. So basically, this is the game. Actually, let me use a controller because controller actually I haven't mapped punching and kicking to the keyboard yet. And this is pretty much it. What I got so far, at least. But yes, in the end, this will be an adventure game where you unlock special abilities like double jump and power attack and lightning balls or something like that. I don't know. Make it up as I go, really. But yeah, and I'm going to turn that into a tutorial series where I'm going to teach how to make every single aspect of this game from the ground up, completely from scratch, programming and arts. So yes, that's the project in a nutshell. Yeah, that would be really cool. I would say definitely try creating a after-school club for that sort of thing. Even if you just meet people who are simply interested in it. Um, I mean, yeah, I kind of wish I did that when I was in school, but I never did. That would have been cool. I would say go for it. Can't hurt. Do you think there should be more story-driven FPS games than multiplayer games being developed by big studios? Hmm. Whether or not there should be, um, I don't know. There's no like rules, I don't think, to dictate something like that. Um, I think it just matters on what people want. That's the biggest thing with AAA games compared to indie games, I think, is AAA games create the games that players want to play. And indie games create games that they want to play. And I think that regular players who know nothing about video game development, obviously this is not a rule, but I think they tend to have simpler tastes in video games. Like most casual gamers, they just want to jump online with their friends and play some Call of Duty. Like they don't want to spend like 10 hours getting through a storyline. Um, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's probably too many multiplayer games out there. Um, I don't like it when they tack on either multiplayer or storyline. I think they should choose one and stick with it. I don't know. I don't think I have anything really solid to say about that. How do I feel about people contributing models and such? Um, the one problem with that is that I have to teach how to create everything in this game. So I would end up having to redo the work of anybody who potentially contributes a model to this. Um, so that wouldn't really work out. Um, Sound effects is a maybe, but a huge maybe. I don't know. I gotta plan that out. And that's the problem with video games. There's no like one right like path or one right strategy. There's so many valid options. It's hard to, you know, actually crack down and choose one. How do I feel about games made with a bunch of Unity kits? I feel like if you use too many Unity kits, you aren't learning how to make games. You're learning how to use those kits. Like if your entire game is made up of kits, like I think it can be cool if you bring something new to the table. I think in the end, that's what really matters. You got to bring something new to the table. You have to bring your own thing. There's no freaking point of just copying and pasting somebody else's work and combining two different things. Like if you take a bunch of free models from the asset store and put it into a first-person shooter kit from the asset store, it's like, what are you really doing? Like congratulations, it's that FPS kit and those models. What did you do? That's how I feel about that. And I mean, for a beginner, that kind of thing can take a lot of work. I think a lot of beginners tend to be a little bit over ambitious, or maybe not necessarily over ambitious, but they don't quite. No, they usually are over ambitious. But on top of that, they also don't have as clear of an idea of project scope, or how long it's going to take to create something, or how much work goes into creating something, and what potentially could be beyond what they are capable of creating. So doing something like taking a first-person shooter kit and a bunch of models from the asset store and then combining them together, even that alone can take a lot of work for a beginner. So it's really hard to shoot down a beginner and say like, well, that was dumb, because they just spent a lot of work and you don't want to shoot them down on their first project. So it's not the worst learning experience. So you will learn some things, but I would suggest creating something yourself, even if it's far simpler than what you could create by using somebody else's kit. Like, create I don't know, something as simple as Pong. I think that would be cooler. Like maybe if you created not creating Pong, but something as simple as Pong, but something different. Like if you did that, I think that would be more cool than just taking a kit. Because when you just take somebody else's kit, it's like, that's the kit. Like, you didn't create anything. Like maybe a little bit of level design at the very most. Can you explain the basics of your storyline? From what I've seen about the game, I feel like it has to do with bullies and bullying, and then you added robots. It's actually not about bullies. Somebody else mentioned that before. It's actually inspired by my experience in high school, because that's something I can go on a rant about and get really angry about. Like if somebody's like, what was high school like for you? I'll be like, well, and I'll get really angry and talk about all the things I hated about high school. But bullies was actually not one of those things. I don't think I was ever bullied in high school. I was in middle school, but I also bullied him right back. Like, so it was a mutual. We were both bullies to each other, so I was able to not let him beat me down too much. Not as much as I beat him down. But anyways, so yeah, bullies was never a big thing for me in high school. For me, it was the education system and the fact that they forced us to be there every day doing stupid, mundane tasks that never amounted towards anything. And I just thought the education system is completely broken. So that's what I wanted to make a game about. So the robots symbolize the fact that high school, at least in the United States, I don't know, it could be very different in other countries, I can't speak for every high school in the United States. The high school I went to, I can definitely speak for that one, but the high school I went to, it didn't feel like they were teaching us anything. It felt like they were creating robots. It was like an assembly line, and they wanted everybody to just, memorize all these facts and do all these very specific things. So, and like they basically they trained you to not have any individuality, and they trained you to have the exact same skill set as every other student and to be exactly the same as every other student. So the robots are actually a metaphor for what high school was trying to crank out. Like, high school is like an assembly line for creating robots. That's my metaphor. So yeah, that's basically, the game's kind of a metaphor. And beyond that, I'm sort of just making up the story as I go. But I figured it will be easier to write a story if it's based off of something that's personal towards me. Like in the past, I've made games with stories that had no storyline personal towards me whatsoever. Whereas, so this will be like the first game that I've created that has a story that I really relate to and is really personal towards me. So I'm hoping the story will be stronger in that sense. Or at least feel more like it has more substance to it. Links broke? Oh. To a different link. Okay. Oh, thank you. 3699 numbers. Oh, excuse me. Burping all over this live stream. Oh, I have like half hiccups, half burps. How often do I do these live streams? It has been a long time since I've done a live stream. So I used to do it like every day, but that ended up taking up way too much time. It ended up getting in the way of my work. I wasn't able to get as much work done because I was live streaming every day. It was just taking many hours out of my day. And it also just became hard to keep up the schedule. So I'm going to try to bring it back and try to do it probably not as frequently as I used to, but I'm going to try to come up with somewhat of a schedule. It's just hard to, I don't know. The thing about the thing I like about videos over live streams is that it doesn't matter when I post a video. I can just post it whenever I feel like it, or just whenever the project gets done, or whenever I have a video of something to make. It doesn't matter when I put it out there. Whereas with the live stream, I have to schedule it like a week ahead of time, and I have to come out with a regular schedule that works well for a lot of people. And usually what works well for a lot of people is like Saturday, and so that basically would mean I would never have a day off. What's an average work session like for you? How long do you usually work? And do you drink anything? How do you stay focused? That's difficult. It's hard to say. I don't have a set schedule or anything. Usually, basically what I do is at the end of the day, I just list in my head everything that I got accomplished. And I try to get into a habit of making sure that I have a strong list in my head. Or at the very least, have one strong thing that I accomplished that day. And some days I don't manage that. Some days I just have trouble focusing. Some days I get a lot done. Some days I'll spend 9 hours. Some days I'll spend a couple hours. It varies from day to day, and depending on what I'm working on, and just what other things in life I have to do. So it really varies. At the very most, I've probably spent 12 hours. I've probably spent longer, or probably maybe 13 hours at the very most at one time. And that was during a game jam. Oh, thank you, Zered. So I don't have any advice on how to do an infinite terrain. At least not with Unity's terrain system. Yeah, I feel like that most of the time. I didn't accomplish anything today. I need to accomplish something. Yeah, game jams are a lot of fun. I Oh, I've only done one, actually. I thought I've done more than one. I gotta start doing more game jams. I really like game jams. I had a very good experience with the last game jam that I did. I was just barely able to finish. And it's hard to say that that game was finished. It was barely holding together. But at least I had something in the end to show for it. Was I full of joy? Um, a little bit, yeah. I don't know if I got like overly excited. I got more excited because they also announced the same time that they announced the real-time shadows and Unity free, they also announced that the basic version of Unity Android and Unity iOS would be free. That's something I got really excited about. I like actually well oh yeah, no, I got extremely excited about that. I forgot about that. I was like telling all my friends and they're like, "What?" Like they don't understand game development. Um but I was like I think like literally that day, I was like, man, I really need to stop procrastinating and buy the Android license because I want to make a game for Ouya. I was like, darn, I don't want to spend $400. Or wait, no, I think it was $300. I was like, darn, I don't want to spend $300. Dang it. Oh well, I was like, I really got to stop procrastinating and just buy it. And then Unity's like, well, it's free now, just out of nowhere. And I was just like, oh, thank you. I'm so glad I was procrastinating. That was like the one time procrastinating was like the best thing I ever did. Reddit's game jam? Reddit has a game jam? Why would they do a game jam on Halloween weekend? I'm going to be out of town, so I won't be able to participate in that one. No more blob projection. Well, in mobile, it's still very valid in mobile. I'll probably actually use it in mobile for this game. I'll probably put blob shadows. I think there's a way to get real-time shadows in mobile, but I think it's really performance heavy and probably not even worth it. Can you make iPhone games with a Mac virtual machine? I don't really think so. Technically, yes. Um, but to create a Hackintosh is what people tend to call it. Um, from what I've heard, it's extremely difficult to create a Hackintosh, or in other words, buy a bunch of PC parts, build a PC, and then install Mac OS X 10 or whatever it is on it. Apparently, that's very hard to do. You have to know tons about computers. You have to buy the exact right parts. Um, and apparently, like, having it, like, not glitch out is really tricky. So you have to really, really know what you're doing to create a Hackintosh. I'd say you're better off just making the game on a PC and then getting like the cheapest Mac computer or laptop that you can find, used or new, and just port it over to that. Um, I think that will just be easier. I really hate the fact that, um, well, actually, you know what I think you can do? Um, I think you can actually export it out of Unity. I'm trying to remember. Can you export it out of Unity on a PC? I think you can. I think you just need, what was it called? The iOS development kit. Like the ODK. No, it wasn't ODK. I don't know. It was the Apple software development kit. Like Unity exports to that. And then from there you export it onto your iPhone. So you might be able to export the files out of Unity, put them on a flash drive, transfer them over to a Mac, Xcode, Xcode, thank you, that is what I wanted. And then open it up on Xcode on a Mac, and then put it on your iPhone. I think that would work, I'm not sure. I imagine it would, but I've never done it, so I can't say for sure. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of different game jams. I really want to start participating in more of them. I really got to find the time to do that. I think I need, like, there's got to be like a game jam library somewhere where you can just see all the game jams and figure out which one you want to do based on when you can do it. Good question about UDK. I know it exports in one way or another to iOS because Infinity Blade was made in UDK, and that's for iPhone. I don't know how they do it. Maybe it's like Unity, where you just get the Xcode project and then you open it up on a Mac. Unless they've figured out a way to do it, which would be great for UDK. Um, I don't know. Oh, there is a list of game jams. Thank you, RIP Studios. Oh, it's in like calendar format. So if we wanted to see everything that's in November. Ah, okay. Ah. So that's a long Game Boy Jam. So that's a 10-day long game jam. Uh, one game a month. Okay, I guess that's every single month. What else do we got? Oh, it's not in January. Or does it just not go that far ahead? Okay, it just doesn't go that far ahead. Now these are old ones, right? Yeah. That's kind of cool. I wish this went more ahead of time. But oh well. Magical Girl Jam? What the heck is that? Is it a game jam where you have to have a magical girl in it? Is that the theme? Let's click on what? Welcome to the Magical Girl Game Jam. Magical girl shows like Sailor Moon are something I grew up with. Okay, so it is a game or it is a game jam where you just have to have a magical girl in it. I guess it's a Sailor Moon inspired game jam. Surprisingly, that's not as ridiculous as I thought it was going to be. It's not just limited to games. And it's not just limited to girls. Or things starring girls. Huh. So, oh well. Dang. Gonkhead, that is awesome. Congrats. Yeah, I heard them like announcing the Tornado Twins game jam contest, but I never saw the results. Okay. How to make a big open world in Unity. Uh, Pretty much you gotta load and delete objects as you move. Um, I don't think I have enough experience with anything like that to have a really good answer. But I think it would just be a matter of loading and destroying things as you move based on your position in the world. A Doctor Who game. difficult thing about being a programmer is back problems. Ah. I'm gonna break my neck one of these days. I have such bad back problems. Let's see if there's any questions I missed. This is much more relaxed than the previous live stream. Oh, wow. Is that why you're disfigured? That was that was like a Wheezy Waiter quality pun. Dang, that's awesome. Yeah, show your work is definitely something I'm going to bring back. Because obviously it's pretty popular. A lot of people want me to bring it back. Oh, I need to get a new office chair. But good office chairs are so expensive. Yeah, I think occlusion calling is, I don't know, every once in a while it can be very useful. Some situations, though, it's not very useful at all, like, say, a 2.5D side-scrolling platformer. That would almost never utilize the occlusion calling. I mean, or also if you just do a lot of combined children tricks, that can be helpful. I guess it depends on your game. I can definitely see there can be some situations where it can have a huge performance increase. Or just make it easier to have more objects in your scene and not have to deal with doing very specific modeling, so it can give you some flexibility in your level design. You need 4 copies of Unity. That'd be expensive. Sweet, Gonkhead. Yeah, there should be some pretty new stuff in the Show Your Work live stream whenever it is that I do end up finding time to bring it back. Because it's been a long time since the last one. Ads are loud. You know, maybe my audio is a little bit softer, so you have to turn it up to hear my voice. And then in retrospect, the ads get louder. Maybe. I live in Michigan, United States. Yeah, no, not New York. I'm not that cool. Plus, I imagine there are more game development studios in New York than there are in Michigan. There's really nothing in Michigan. What is my opinion on ad block? I don't use it because, like, most of the time, people put up ads because they're putting out things for free. And, you know, ads are the only way that they really get paid. There's a lot of people who that is their job. Like, they create free content and they get paid from the ads. So it's pretty sad when somebody spends a lot of work creating something and then like half of everybody who watches it has ad blocker on and they just lose all of their revenue. Um, Personally, though, I don't get paid hardly anything from my ads, so it's not the biggest thing in the world for me. But for people who it's their actual job, it can be really, you know, detrimental to their income for people to use ad block. So I don't like ad block. There's very few situations where you actually see ads that are, um, you know, there needlessly. Like, there's some websites that like the entire website is covered with ads. Um, and usually those are just spammy type websites that you're typically not even going to go to anyways. Um, so, but for like YouTubers, you know, they spend a lot of time making videos. So I think they're probably the biggest, you know, they get hit the worst with ad block. Dang, free copies of Unity as a prize? That'd be pretty cool. I don't know. I feel like for the time being, I'm good with Unity Basic. Eventually, I'll get Unity Pro, but I'm not. I'm good with Unity Basic for now. Especially for this project, I need it to be Unity Basic. Um, yeah, that is a good example. With shoot 'em ups. Shoot 'em ups definitely have a huge tendency to be very similar to other shoot 'em ups. Like, I believe that if you start making a shoot 'em up and you force yourself to not play any shoot 'em ups and like um you have no specific shoot 'em up that's your source of inspiration, like you're just making a shoot 'em up and you completely keep all shoot 'em ups out of your mind while you're making this game, chances are you're still going to create a game that like is very similar to a shoot 'em up that's already out there. I'm trying to think of any other genres that are like that. Anything based on realism, like a realistic racing game, a realistic military game. I guess things like that you can very easily fall into just being similar to another game. Um, I'd say like if it happens on accident, it's not as bad of a thing. But it also means that you didn't spend too much time trying to be original. But at least you didn't do it on purpose. And hopefully it should show. I think if you are blatantly copying a game, like let's say Call of Duty, Minecraft, whatever is popular that you're copying, like I saw somebody copy Hellworm or something like that. And that really angered me because it was such a small indie game. Like, why would you copy somebody else's game? Um, and they did a terrible job copying it too. Um, but yeah, I'd say if you clone a game on accident, I don't think it. I think it'll show that it's still your own, even if it's doesn't have anything too unique about it that separates it from all the other games. And I think shoot 'em up is probably the genre that would get hit the hardest with this, type of situation. An estimate on the Kickstarter date: early November. It's I really got to try to get everything done that I want to get done before I launch this Kickstarter. It's really a matter of getting like the things that I need to get done. Um, and it's getting there. I just really need to crank out a little bit more work. So hopefully soon. Are there any plugins that I use a lot or would recommend? Um, I would say Rain. I don't. Well, for this project, I'm going to use it a lot. And what I've used in it so far, I like. Um, as far as other plugins, um, there's a Unity default script that is just inside of the packages that you can normally import into Unity called Combine Children. I don't know if that would be considered a plugin, but that's something really, really useful and that I would recommend. That's good for performance. Like, if you just want to combine some objects that are of the same material, you just put them as both a child of an empty game object, and then add the script to that game object, combine children, and it will combine them into the same mesh, saving you draw calls. Playmaker, I did like for visual scripting. So if you want to get into scripting without scripting, that's one, but I don't use it. What else is there? What other plugins have I used? I don't use a lot of plugins. Hmm. Yeah, the Playmaker book has been abandoned a long time ago. That's something I'm not particularly proud of. That's, you know, can't win them all. That was just a project I had to abandon, and I regretted doing that, but I kind of had to, unfortunately. I made a mistake jumping into that and making a big announcement about it. Got really excited about a publisher approaching me, and yeah. Pro Builder. Oh yeah, I haven't used Pro Builder, but it looked cool. That's I haven't used it, but it looked really good for creating simple geometry and level design inside of the Unity editor. So that looked cool. Um, I watched your big game versus little game or small game video. My question to you is, would you ever work on a big game yourself, or do you like making smaller games? Um, the only way I would ever do a big game is if I work my way up to that point and I'm absolutely sure that I have the resources to create that big game, and I have the team behind me, like a really good team, to create that game. But of course, I would want to create a small game with that team first to make sure that that team is a good team that will stick through the whole project. And because you got to give them a test run. Like, you don't want to jump into a gigantic project, work for 6 months, then find out that they're all douchebags and they never do their work, or they just leave you halfway through, or anything like that. Um, so yeah, if I were to do a big game, it would only be if I worked up to it. And generally speaking, I think I much prefer, like, by big game, I don't necessarily mean the length of playtime. I'm not opposed to creating a game that has a lot of playtime. But I lean more towards creating less content and making that content more flexible and be able to create like its own gameplay to add longevity to the game. So yeah, I think I lean more towards smaller games, smaller scope project games. Um, But yeah. And I probably would in the end try to take my own advice as what was my advice? It was if you have an idea in your head of this gigantic, awesome game, think about what it is that you really love about that game and figure out how you can create the same thing in a shorter amount of time. No problem, Zered, or however you pronounce your name. Yeah, I've never made a game with anybody else. I tried once with my friend. He never made a game before. Like, this was back in the Game Maker days, when I was still in high school. We tried making a game together, but that didn't go well. He just knew nothing about making games, and I was on like my like fourth or fifth Game Maker game, so I knew a lot more compared to him at the time. But yeah, it would be nice to have somebody that I knew in person to make games with, because I've never experienced that before in my life. Um, One of these days. I actually know somebody who does some pretty good concept art, and he mentioned that he might want to make a game with me. So if in the future that ends up happening, that would be cool. How long did it take you to get a full grasp of Unity? It was a gradual process. I don't think there was ever one point where I was like, okay, now I know Unity. Um, I think it was pretty gradual. Um, I mean, um, I'm trying to think if there was any points like after about a year. I think I had a pretty good grasp on it. I don't know, but it's hard to say because it was also still just a gradual learning curve. Um, I mean, like, yeah, I'd say probably after a year was when I started really like having like a really good idea of what went into game design. Because that's what ended up happening with Galaxia Interface. I worked on it, and then for like, because it was also my learning project, so it took a lot longer because I had to learn everything as I was making it, and I thought I had a really small scope for that project. Like I didn't think it would take very long to make. It ended up taking way longer than I thought. Like I originally thought it would take a few months, ended up taking longer than a year. So that took a long time. Um, and part of the problem was that, like, towards the end of the project, I was like, I did so many things wrong. I should, like, I was like debating whether or not to start over because I did so many things wrong. I'm trying to remember if I've heard of Dust. Sounds familiar. I'd say Jonathan Blow is a big inspiration to me because I think Braid, the game that he's most known for, um, it was like I don't know. Anyways, let's move on to this question. Where did you find all the information for Rain? There is not a lot of them, or there's not a lot. Are you saying their website doesn't have a lot of information on it? Well, anyways, the way I got all the information from Rain was directly communicating with the company. Um, so that was cool. Uh, I how did it happen? I think was it? It was probably Jester is his online handle. So if you see RT underscore Jester, um, I think he's the PR rep in Rival Theory. I don't know if that's his exact job title. I could be wrong. But he's a cool guy. I think if I remember right, he like approached me and he was like, "Hey, you have cool tutorials. We have Rain Indie." Um, and yeah, and what we ended up talking, and so what ended up happening was I did an interview with William Klein or Bill Klein, whichever one he goes by. I think he says he likes to go by Bill. But he's the CEO of Rival Theory, and he's basically an awesome expert on AI. So I talked to him on a live stream for about an hour. You can find that on my YouTube channel. Just search like AI expert or William Klein or Rival Theory on my main channel, and it should come up. It was a live stream interview, so that was really cool. So that was like pretty much my first interaction with the company, and I kind of just kept in touch with them ever since then. And then I got to be a part of the beta for Rain, which was really cool. And I talked a lot with them and talked about this project. And I told them, I was like, oh, you're coming out with Rain, and it's going to be free, and it would actually fit inside of this project really well. And I don't know, we basically both just started geeking out together, and we're like, oh, this will be so cool, let's include these two things. So that was really cool. So I got a lot of interaction with that company and got to, talk with them a lot, and got a lot of inside information that way. So that was really cool. Do I use version control? I find it essential for organization. I should. I've heard so many people say good things about version control. I don't use it. I just do lots of backups. I just copy and paste my project, and I copy and paste it onto as many different hard drives and flash drives and burned CDs and cloud drives as I can, to make sure I have lots of backups of my game, and that's pretty much all I do. Yeah, he was on the stream earlier. Yeah, Jester is a cool guy. Yeah, that's awesome. Like I do know some stuff about AI. I mean, I did design my own AI pathfinding, and I did a tutorial on it in the FPS1 tutorials. But compared to Rain, holy crap. Like, my AI is like a pile of crap compared to Rain. Like, Rain is actual AI. Mine is like, it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. But yeah, after doing that pathfinding, I'm kind of like, I'm going to leave that up to the experts, because they really know what they're doing. Me, not as much. Thank you. Sometimes my voice gets goofy. Hello, Junminaya, if I pronounced that correctly. Probably not. Oh, okay. So version control basically just backs up your project, and it's not incremental. Mine actually are incremental. I came up with my own incremental system. And that system is that after I copy and paste the project, where it says, project name dash copy, I rename that folder, and I change the word copy to old and then a number. And that way I know which version it is. But not the date or any of the details about what's been changed or anything like that. I can just I can go old 1, old 2, old 3, and I know like in which order they go. So I know that old and then the highest number is the most recent backup. So that's my system. Git blame is a super useful tool. Ever wonder why you wrote a certain line of code? Yeah, my own version of version control. I should do a tutorial on that. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if I'm doing that like the right way you're supposed to be doing, so maybe that would be horrible for me to do a tutorial on. I might just be making the internet dumber by doing that. I'm not sure. It's worked for me so far. Oh, is blame like something you use to like synchronize your project between multiple people? I've never heard of it. How old were you when you first got into game dev? I'm 13. I was 13 too when I first got into game dev. So it's been a while. I didn't do it as adamantly as I do now. I mean, at times I did, cause I didn't have a lot of friends when I was 13, so I had a lot of alone time, and I spent a lot of that alone time making video games in Game Maker. And I spent probably more time in class making games on my calculator than I did doing homework. So, I mean, but then again, there was also times where I went an entire year without making a game, probably at the very most a year. I always at least dabbled in it at least once a year. And at times, like, I would spend like 100 hours on a project. Um, so yeah, that's when I started. But for the past 3 years or so, I've been taking it more seriously and making it like basically instead of going to college, um, like for the longest time, I was like, should I go to college? What college should I go to? And like while trying to make that decision, I'm like, well, in the meantime, I'm gonna make some video games while I'm making that decision, or maybe I'll just take a year off and then make a decision. And 3 years later, I'm like, it's kind of too late now. Screw college. Hotline Miami was made in GameMaker. Yes, it was. I believe it was programmed with their like C++ code within GameMaker. I don't think it was used. I don't think it used their visual scripting system. I could be making that up though. I've been known to do that. Let's just say facts that aren't real facts for some reason I think are true. I still have Windows 7. Yes, I do. I actually built this computer after Windows 8 came out, I believe. Did I? Yes, I did. And I chose Windows 7 based on just people saying, I hate Windows 8. So I don't know. um, mm, that makes blame sound very useful. Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. Catalyst. Wait, Catalyst Live? I think that's what your name is. It's a little hard to read. It's light. Um, but yeah, I mean, up until recently, like I was thinking about it, like up until recently, I literally never met anybody in person who has made a video game before, as far as I can remember. But I mean, recently I actually was able to get a tour of a game design studio that was in my town, so obviously I met a lot of people who've made games in there. But prior to that, I haven't even met anybody else who's made a video game. Um, so it was a cool experience meeting all these people who did such advanced video game design work. Um, but yeah, not a lot of people take it very seriously. It's hard to find people who really do. Mostly you just find them online, unless you live in California, I guess. Yeah, and game design is something that takes up so much time. So if you like go to school and do game design, that's like your entire life. You like cut out sleep, and you'll have just enough time. Oh yeah, that's right. GML, game maker language. I forgot about that. Isn't it like C++ inspired syntax? Is that what I'm thinking? I don't know. Mm. Git sounds very useful. I think I heard somebody mention that. I need to look into a very streamlined way of simultaneously making a game for like PC and Android. Um, as of right now, the only way I can really think of is to just constantly switch the project back and forth or copy the project and keep on translating it into Android and just keeping the file sizes uh, really, really small so that it doesn't take too much time to transfer over. Um, but yeah, it would probably be much better to look into something that would streamline that process. What town? Me? Kalamazoo. And I don't know. I've lived in Kalamazoo all my life, so I know it's a real city. But apparently, it has a reputation of people are like, "Wait, Kalamazoo? That's a real city?" That would be cool to do a game jam. I don't know. That'd be really hard to organize, at least in my town. Like if I lived in California, um, it would be much easier to form a game jam. But here, it's like, who would come? That'd be like a party for one. I don't think anybody would want to fly out here. Probably not. Stop with the California stuff. Yes. Well, it's like the game development capital of the world. Actually, I don't know if that's true. My dedicated YouTube subscribers would come. I don't know. I'd say out of all of my subscribers, there's got to be at least one person who would actually do that. And that would just be kind of awkward. I would feel awkward if that happened. I'd just be like, you spent all that money on a plane ticket to come see me? Like, why me? Hitchhike here. Uh, Maybe an online game jam. That would be kind of cool. I wonder if there's a way to like digitally make it feel like we were all in the same room. Like just a big Skype call. No. I don't know. What I mean, I could live stream my desktop, but I don't think that would really work. That wouldn't be enough. But that would be really cool. I mean, it depends on how many people participate in the game jam. Google Hangout allows up to 9 people. So that could work. If only 9 people participated, like if it was a small game jam. Um, I've never tried Maya. Um, but isn't Maya expensive? I mean, the reason why I go with Blender is that it's very cheap. It's free. It's 100% free. Um, and it's really powerful. And once you get used to the interface, it's actually very fast. It's muscle memory. Um, so there's a steep learning curve for Blender, but I think it's worth it once you get over that learning curve. Like you have to force yourself to use it and get used to all the keyboard shortcuts, and once you do, it's pretty sweet. It's really powerful and really fast and really lightweight, and it's just really really down to business. TeamSpeak, maybe. Oh yeah, Maya's like $3,000. Okay, I knew it was expensive. I've used 3ds Max. I kind of like 3ds Max. Honestly, if it came down to it, I think I would use Blender instead of 3ds Max. Um, because I feel like 3ds Max, there's a lot more clicking on buttons, which is a lot easier to get into at first because you see like a picture and the picture shows you what that tool does. So it's a lot less of a steep learning curve. But the problem is that it takes more time to move your mouse to a button than it does to hit a key on your keyboard that you just have muscle memory towards. So once you get over the learning curve of Blender, I actually prefer Blender over 3ds Max. Yeah, that's definitely true, Brandon. What it really comes down to is what do you create? Um, it's not like any like one model is going to be different from another model just because it was made in a different program. It really comes down to the art. So it's just a matter of choosing what tools you prefer to create your art. What do you think of Unite 2013? I missed it, or is it coming up? I don't know. I've never gone. Um, I would probably like to go someday. I've never used Scratch. Mm. Oh, okay. Maya's like, yeah, isn't that like what Pixar uses? I would explain why it's so expensive. Or does Pixar have their own in-house engine? I wouldn't be surprised if they did. All right, well, it's actually starting to get late in my part of the world, so any last minute questions? It's been a while since I've used 3ds Max. I'd say figuring out how to do new things in 3ds Max is way easier than Blender. But I think Blender, once you already know those things, I mean, Blender does have its faults. If you actually go to Blender Guru, the YouTube channel, and look up one of his latest videos called Fixing Blender, he like very clearly explains all of the faults of Blender. And I think if Blender fixes all of the things that he listed, Blender will probably be like the perfect program. How do you do health in Rain? Um, I'm still kind of new to Rain. I'm not sure how to do it within the behavior tree. I did it with a script, and I just had that script when health is smaller than or equal to 0, disable the AI components, or disable the game object with the AI components on it, more specifically. Yes, I'm going to bring back Show Your Work. Don't worry, I'm going to bring it back. It's just a matter of when. Soon. Definitely during the Kickstarter. Is Rain compatible with Playmaker? I have not tested that. Um, but I imagine it would be. I don't think the two of them would conflict very much. Um, I think you could make them go side by side pretty easily. Creating a Kickstarter. Um, the Kickstarter is going to be for the project that you see over there. I'll give it a quick play. Um, so it's still a very early alpha. Still needs some work. Let me grab the controller so that I can actually do some melee. So it's very simple right now. I'm just trying to solidify the basics, and right now, really the main thing is some pretty simple melee combat, some simple enemies, and simple platforming, and just making sure the player feels and plays really well. But I'm going to create a tutorial series on how to create the game that you see right here, and I'm going to do more work to it to make it a finished game, and create like the ultimate tutorial series on how to make your first video game in Unity 3D, or just your first video game ever, no previous knowledge required, and yeah, so that's going to take a lot of time to create, so that's why I'm turning to Kickstarter. You should add turrets. That would be a good thing to add. That'd be very simple to add. That'd be a good addition to the tutorials too. And I think that would actually be pretty fun with this character. That's a good idea. Why are you so awesome? Thank you. I don't know. It depends on your definition of awesome. When will it be out? It still has some work to go. I don't think the tutorials themselves will be public until probably 6 or 7 months from now. I know that's a long time. But I do plan on having like one of the reward tiers of Kickstarter to be to get early access to the tutorials. And I'm mainly doing that for like just to make sure I don't do any huge mess ups. So if I have a small group of people going through the tutorials as I create them, they can tell me when I screwed something up, and then it's not that big of a deal for me to re-upload a video. And then by the time I get through the whole tutorial series, hopefully we'll work out all the bugs. If I explain anything in a stupid way and need to go back and explain it better, I will have all of that fixed. So hopefully by the time I actually fully release it for the public, it'll be nice and polished and just really, really polished and a very good product. And it'll be free for everybody. The videos will be. I'm going to have the project and reference files available on the Unity Asset Store for purchase. Rain will be in the tutorials. Yes. Rain, that's what those robots are using. Will there be a demo out soon? Yes. That's one of the things I really want to get done before the Kickstarter. That's the biggest hurdle that I have to get done before the Kickstarter is a alpha demo. Thank you. I don't want to make it public what I'm going to ask for just yet. I'm probably just going to wait until the actual Kickstarter. Just because it, just in case it changes for any reason. I don't want to like say this is the price it's going to be and then change it later. So yeah, it's not going to be too huge. Like in the range of games that get funded on Kickstarter, it's going to be more towards the lower end. It's not going to be the lowest end. Like I know there's some games that get funded for like $500, which is pretty low for Kickstarter. So do we get hats like yours? Should I do some like ET-ski swag hats? No, I don't think I'm going to do any swag for this Kickstarter. I don't think people actually like swag, like t-shirts and hats and book pads. Like, I don't know. If people say that they want it, like, literally it's a matter of uploading an image to, what's it called? Cafe Press. So I might just make that available, like, on the side of Kickstarter. I don't think I'll make it a part of Kickstarter. Maybe I'll make it linked on the Kickstarter page. I don't know. Who would want that? Who would want ET-ski swag? I wouldn't. Any guess as to how long the whole series will be? I'm guessing pretty long. Yeah, definitely on the longer side. At the very least, it will be twice as long as the first-person shooter tutorials, which the first-person shooter tutorials, the FPS 1 tutorials, those were a total of, I think 24 hours, and it was 46 episodes. It'll be at least twice as long because On top of programming, I'm also going to be teaching arts. Um, but I also want to make the episodes shorter. I really want to make a strong attempt to make the episodes more precise and shorter. So that might mean I'll be splitting concepts up into multiple episodes. Um, so maybe it'll be a lot more shorter episodes. I'm going to guess anywhere between 100 and 150 episodes. And if things get crazy, maybe 200. But I've seen Bergzer Arcade. He had a tutorial series with like 400 episodes. So that worked out for him. So I hope something with a lot of episodes is still okay. Um, I don't know. I'm thinking I'm going to leave FPS 1 as it is. I might try to do something with an FPS 2, but if I do, I mean, that's like so early to say. My plans could totally change. I might just never find time to do that. You never know. Um, Thank you, Disfigured. Um, Anyways, because I mean, I called it FPS 1. So my thought process is that it would be really cool to do something, whether or not it's actual tutorials. It would be really cool to do something titled FPS 2. Will you be doing anything with visual scripting? Well, I do have a copy of Playmaker, and I did end up getting pretty good at Playmaker and knowing my way through it pretty well. So maybe I'll do tutorials on it. Um, I think contract-wise, though, it would be illegal for me to write a book about it since I abandoned the publisher, which once again I'm not proud of. Um, I'll have to double check that contract. I think I'm in the clear to do video tutorials. It just can't be written. Um, but maybe. I have a lot on my plate right now. I would like to, but I don't know if I'll have time. Is visual scripting similar to logic bricks in BGE? I don't know what that is, but most likely, most visual scripting systems have very similar properties to them. They might look totally different, but they tend to be very similar. Oh, Blender game engine. I've never made a game in the Blender game engine. But I have seen that they have like flowcharts. Um, so I imagine that they're probably similar because Playmaker and a lot of other visual scripting systems use a flowchart. Like Kismet uses flowcharts, Playmaker uses flowcharts, and there's a couple of other things that use flowcharts. Oh, you're the guy who commented on my vines? I gotta make more vines. Or maybe I don't have to. I don't know. I just downloaded the app and I was like, oh, this is so much fun. And I like just had to upload something. Have I ever bought anything from the Unity Asset Store and used it in a game? Actually, no. I think the only thing I ever bought from the Unity Asset Store was Playmaker. And I didn't end up making a game with that. Yeah, I don't know much about the Blender game engine. I'm not on my Ouya very often. Only from time to time. Very less now that I've started watching Breaking Bad. I started watching Breaking Bad and now I'm like, Ouya, Breaking Bad, Breaking Bad. Yeah, Towerfall, I believe, is like the game that people play online, if I'm or wait, or is that a local? No, Towerfall is local only, isn't it? Yeah, I think it is only local. Because I remember I played it and I was like looking for the online, but there was none. Oh, sweet. You got the texture pack? Well, thank you. Oh, Alien vs. Predator is multiplayer? I played that game. I thought it was awful. And I'm a huge fan of Alien vs. Predator. The original Alien vs. Predator game was one of my favorite games ever. I will give it to the new Ouya Alien vs. Predator game. It looks incredible. They made a fantastic looking game on Ouya. Gotta hand it to him for that. I mean, it looks the same as every other Alien vs. Predator game. Like, after all these years, they have a very, very specific style, and I don't think they will ever deviate from that style. But they did it very well, and I do love the Alien vs. Predator style. Um, but gameplay-wise, I thought it was a total piece of crap. I can't even sugarcoat that. I also didn't like that it was such a huge download. I really prefer on Ouya if the games are 100 megabytes or less, because anything bigger than that it just becomes unmanageable. Plan on looking at Steambox. I've been listening to stuff about it in the news. Um, I'm not even going to get into the government shutdown. It's also not gaming related, so that would be for a different type of YouTube channel. But anyways, Steambox. I don't know what I think about it. I like that they're trying to do like a heavy support for Linux. That's kind of cool. Um, I mean, beyond that, I really don't know much. Um, I don't know. I don't know what to make of Steambox right now. I don't think there's enough information out about it yet. I did like the mini computers that they showed. I really like they showed one that was um like they rode over it in a car. Like they ran over it in a car and it was still okay. That was kind of cool. Um and like one of them was like so strong you could use it as a TV mount, where it was like built into your TV. I I don't understand the use of that, but it's cool that they made one that was that strong. What microphone do I use? Quality is amazing. Thank you. It is the Samsung C01U. It's a USB microphone. And I'm actually borrowing this from a friend. And I have been borrowing it for the past like year and a half. And I think he forgot that I have it. So let's hope he doesn't remember that I've been borrowing this. Alright, well, I gotta go because I think there's people in my house who are trying to sleep. And I'm probably keeping them up. Yeah. Yep, so that might be one thing for the Kickstarter. Just to have some backup money in case he remembers and I need to give this back so I can get my own microphone. Maybe, I don't know. That'll be a stretch goal. I don't know. Microphones aren't too crazy expensive. You can get a good one for like $200, which is still expensive, but like for the quality, you can get like full quality for like $200. Yeah, they're probably doing that just because they know that Steam equals game sales. It's just the way the market is right now. It's Steam is the big dog. They're the ones bringing in all the sales. Oh yeah. I was having a lot of trouble with my green screen earlier. Luckily right now it's working. Good night and goodbye everyone. This has been a fun live stream. I will be announcing shortly on my YouTube channel and on my website when the next live stream will be. I don't know yet. I still have to plan it out. I'm going to try to come up with a schedule for the next month or 2 months or whatever. The main thing is I need to figure out, I need to like get everything done and then decide on a launch date for the Kickstarter. And then I need to come up with a live stream schedule of when all of the live streams are going to be during that Kickstarter. So I don't know how many live streams I'm going to do before the Kickstarter is launched. Probably at least 1 or 2 more. So yeah, and if I do, I'll post a video on my YouTube channel so you all will know. All right, thanks for sticking around, everyone. This has been fun. Talked about a lot of interesting things. So yes, and I will upload these live streams to YouTube. So I guess until next time, I will see you all later, and keep making games. And I gotta wait a second just to make sure the last few words go through. Goodbye and good night, everyone. Good live streaming. All right. See you, everyone, later.